And we are back, and we just finished 1944's Double Indemnity, clocking in at 1 hour and 47 minutes. This doesn't have a rating, but PG, I guess, right? I mean, there's no cursing.
There's no cursing. There's I mean, it deals with murder and whatnot.
But you don't see anything,
but you never see it. Yeah, you never see anybody get killed. Even when the murder happens, you don't really see anything. You just see like somebody's
reaction shot to it,
or lack of reaction because they're so stone cold.
This is just an amazing piece of cinema. This is
I mean, what did they say? This is the
gold standard for
film noir.
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, everything about this film comes together so brilliantly. This is directed by the amazing Billy Wilder, with a script by Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler, based off James M. Cain's novel, and stars Fred MacMurray as Walter Neff, who kind of plays against the grain because I think you're so used to seeing him.
Everybody sees Fred MacMurray. Well,
yeah, like Shaggy Dog and just the good guy, right?
The good guy, My Three Sons.
Right. So nobody's thinking of him as I guess in film noir, is it the patsy? Because he's the one that gets duped by the femme fatale. In this case, Barbara Stanwyck's Phyllis Dietrichson.
I mean, like even when he's in the role, though, I mean, he's like a salesman, and
but he's still a decent guy.
He seems like a decent guy, but he doesn't seem to have any problem with flirting with the married lady,
But I think that his relationship with Lola, the daughter, sort of changes him
a little. Like, I think that maybe that guilt like shifted him over,
kind of, because even at the end when he's leaving the message for Keys, he's like, kind of look after them.
Yeah, and he also prevents
the guy from taking the fall.
Yeah. So, I mean, he did have redeeming characters. He wasn't pure evil.
Yeah, unlike Phyllis, who
was just
using everyone to get to her ultimate end game.
Oh yeah,
she was something, that Barbara Stanwyck, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. She just dominates the screen. It's in the month of women's history, this is a great selection. I think film noir is typically about kind of the patsy guy who falls for the femme fatale and her wiles and submits to her bidding and ultimately usually winds up dead, as is the case here as well. I don't feel like we're spoiling a film from 1944.
Yeah, 1944, yeah. I think we can give away the end.
Yes. One of the things that I learned about this film tonight was that it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards and did not win one, which is a crime. I mean, this movie should have been showered with all the love.
I mean, the dialogue is fantastic.
Fantastic.
That machine gun,
rapid fire,
1940s, tough guy and dame dialogue.
How fast was I going? It's just like not even adapted screenplay. Like, god damn, like that should have won. I mean, I can't imagine. What did they say was the one that won? Let me see really quick.
Some Bing Crosby thing.
Nonsense. Yeah, Leo McCarey's Going My Way,
which I've never even heard of.
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Which, yeah, I mean, it can't be as good as Double Indemnity. That's just hogwash.
I mean, even before I heard of, or before I saw Double Indemnity, I've heard of Double Indemnity.
Yes.
I mean, it's been parodied. It's been stories have imitated it. Well, I have no idea what the hell Going My Way is.
I don't know either. I won't even dignify it by looking it up. But just really great. And I obviously will give this movie a 9 because I think it's just so great. But besides watching it, I encourage everyone to go on the IMDb page and look through the trivia. There is some fabulous gems.
Everybody was a character back in the 40s.
Seriously.
Hollywood.
I can't. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, this is amazing. I mean, I wish there was in that day, there wasn't really like the making of the movies kind of like there is now. But like that would have been a really great movie to get the behind the scenes from, just from the vantage point of the production, especially since apparently Wilder and Chandler did not get along. Hilarious. But they came up with probably one of the best scripts ever. Yeah. And it's funny because in a lot of ways it's dated, but the story still holds up as far as I'm concerned. And the dialogue is just so amazingly fresh and funny and original, and just, I never feel bored watching this film. I've seen it in my lifetime more than a handful of times, and I always find it just really riveting and just really interesting how a movie from 1944, at least the dialogue anyway, and the interactions resonate. So yeah, just based on that alone, I mean, it would have been nice if people like recorded stuff like making of and like background, like post-production stuff and just stuff like that, just to know, like, you know, how the actors felt. Like they talk about in the IMDb trivia about how Fred MacMurray really wasn't keen on playing Walter because it was so against it was so against his normal kind of repertoire of character actors, but or stuff that he does as an actor, but it just makes so much sense. And kudos to Billy Wilder for just Tom Haverfording him down and wearing him down and just getting him to agree to it.
I mean, as far as like bad guy roles for Fred MacMurray, was that it? I mean,
it's funny that they also mentioned that he's in The Apartment from 1960, which is the movie that Billy Wilder does with Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and Fred MacMurray. And in that, Fred MacMurray is the one that's having the affair with Shirley MacLaine's character. Oh. And he's using, or the executives in that firm are using Jack Lemmon's apartment to carry on with their girlfriends. And you find out that the Jack Lemmon character is secretly in love with Shirley MacLaine. Mm-hmm. And she only has eyes for Fred MacMurray, who's like this suave upper senior management executive, but he's a jerk.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, I guess, because when I was a kid, my exposure to Fred MacMurray was Wholesome Dads
or Shaggy Dog. Yes.
Like that.
Well, that was, I mean, I would say that was probably like 95% of his filmography.
So I remember the first time I saw this, I was just like, "What are you doing, Fred MacMurray? What are you doing? You murdered that man. You broke his neck with your bare hands."
Yes, absolutely.
Shaggy Dog would never do that.
He wouldn't be happy with you right now, Fred MacMurray. But so I guess we should talk about this film a little bit. What did you think about it?
I remember I had to see this film like in college. Mm-hmm. I think it was probably my first exposure to it. Yeah, and it's great. I mean, the thing that like catches you is just that crazy dialogue, because prior to that, I'd just seen imitations of that where it wasn't played serious.
Right.
Right. When you see like sketches and whatnot where they're This it's played serious, and it works. Just the rapid fire banter between Murray and Stanwyck.
Yeah, especially the first time they meet.
Especially the first time they meet. It's like they're just so on the same page with their little metaphors and innuendos. How fast was I going?
Exactly.
You're trickier than a car full of monkeys.
I love that. Seriously, everyone was a comedian back in the 40s.
And then you have Edward G. Robinson.
Oh, who's just amazing.
I mean, he is such like an icon of that time.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, he's the guy in that thing. You know what I mean?
No, but he's still, impersonated.
Oh, yeah, ad nauseum.
I mean, Chief Wiggum.
Yes.
The frog, I don't know. Nobody probably remembers Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse, but the frog. Mm-hmm. It was Edward G. Robinson and like 1,000 Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, and he's fantastic, and I got that little man in my chest, and he's a big hunk of guy. He's the guy who just unravels everything, and you could just see like Fred MacMurray is just, he thinks everything's going great, and then suddenly Edward G. Robinson just shows up, and he's just like, I'm not happy.
Amazing, yeah. According to the IMDb trivia, which I can't tear my eyes off of, apparently he was reluctant, Edward G. Robinson, to be part of this production because he was sort of like the third man on the marquee after Stanwyck and MacMurray, but apparently realized that he was at a transitional phase of his career, plus the fact that he was getting paid the same amount of money as Stanwyck and MacMurray for doing less work. So
yeah,
I guess he thought the better of it, did it, and they had this amazing film to add to their filmography.
Yeah, I mean, I think Edward G. Robinson really was like, he's like he in that kind of role.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he plays a pivotal role, but I don't know if he's like the forefront.
No.
Plus, I mean, back then everything was like, oh, glamour.
Sure.
I mean, even Fred MacMurray is this big, handsome guy.
Tall guy, yeah.
And Edward G. Robinson looks like a frog.
Terrible.
There's a reason why he was the frog in
Courageous Cat Minnie's Mouse,
which has an awesome theme song if anybody remembers.
Yes, we can link that in the blurb as well. But yeah, again, I've seen this movie many times in my lifetime, and it's just I'm always impressed, like you, by the rapid fire dialogue in this, and just that it still captivates me even after all this time. This is a testament to Billy Wilder as a filmmaker and a storyteller, that he just makes these really interesting, compelling characters. And I think it's also the mark of a really good filmmaker or storyteller when you take someone who you shouldn't really be rooting for and find that empathy for them. You find that compassion for them. I mean, what Walter does is not a good thing, and yet even at the end, you sort of feel bad for him. You kind of wanted him to make it to the Mexican border, but I guess
I gotta be honest, I wanted him to die.
Did you?
Not in that I'm like, it was just
he had to pay for what he did.
You feel, like you said, you feel a bit of sympathy for the guy, because you could see somehow he got swept up in this, and yeah, he's 100% guilty. He deserves to be punished. And in my mind, I think just having him like bleed out would have probably been like, that's like the best mercy you could give him, because he has to be punished. Mm-hmm. So death is probably preferable to him just like going to prison
or to the chamber,
or the gas chamber,
which is where he would ultimately go.
Just let him die. I don't think he should have gotten away. Absolutely not. He deserves.
It's funny because it's like, I mean, he wasn't as reprehensible as, like, say, a Walter White, but even for me at least, I was very sad that Walter White got his at the end.
Well,
but
that was also it had to be done.
Yeah, I understood it. But
you can't just like shit
can't
the bed
do the
right
crime
at
and not
the
pay
end.
the time.
Yeah. It's like fumbling at the goal line. You gotta follow through. Don't save it. What if we want a sequel series now?
Well, I mean, 1944. Nobody was thinking about that. Not like now.
Not like now it would be like
now it's like we'll bring him back from the dead.
Fred's coming. Fred's
he didn't
coming
really die, so you didn't really see it. So he didn't really die.
Yeah, he's out of jail and he's back to his old insurance scamming ways.
Yeah. He's now meeting another lady and
being
a patsy for her. Yeah, I mean, there's no notes. I mean, I have no notes. Although I would like to, again, take the time to recognize what a baller actress Barbara Stanwyck is in this.
She's
just
cold-hearted.
Cold-blooded. Yeah, but fantastic. I love her. And you could tell, like, she just gave no care. And it's more terrifying as you hear it from Lola's perspective, that this was the woman that cared for her mother and ultimately caused her mother's death, and how she felt that she somehow had something to do with the father's death. And it's interesting because, again, the first the first time after the murder when Keyes and Neff get together in Norton's office, because Norton's the one who's like, oh, no. Obviously, as an insurance company, they're just looking at it from the bottom line perspective, and they don't want to pay, right? So even back in the 40s, insurance companies were jackasses. But Norton is just on this kick. It's, she's involved. And even Keyes is like, you're wrong. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're wrong.
Well, in the beginning, Norton was just like, oh, he killed himself.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That was his thing.
He was going off that it was suicide. It was suicide.
Suicide.
If it's suicide, we don't have to pay you anything.
Right.
Like you'd sell that to the widow, or like if that was a legitimate thing. I mean, granted, he was right, but not right.
Yeah. It wasn't a suicide, but it was more.
It was a murder.
It was more in the lines of a murder.
Yeah.
But then,
still, he's just like, we're not paying you anything because your husband killed himself.
Yeah, and that
was shameful for like back then. That was like, oh my god.
Oh my god, yeah.
What was he doing?
Right. He's going to hell. But and then that whole exchange with Edward G afterwards, where he's like, "Yeah, you took the ball there."
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
You fumbled it. You got a penalty. Went back 40 yards.
And in that scene, Barbara Stanwyck comes off as sympathetic because, here's the grieving widow and you're compounding her grief by telling her that we're not paying you because this is a suicide.
Yeah.
And it just the optics on that alone.
Yeah, and she played it perfectly.
I
mean, he was Fred MacMurray's all nervous and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she's just seriously stone cold killer.
Yeah, old
Mr.
pro.
Rogers.
Exactly. And from there, I think that's the first time after the murder where Walter feels confident.
Yeah.
But then that confidence quickly goes away.
It all starts crumbling away. First, that would be
soon
Robinson,
as
and then
Keyes gets
the
on
daughter.
the case. Yes, and Lola's confession to him about what had happened with her mother, and then just being told that Phyllis was seeing Lola's boyfriends.
Yeah.
That definitely was the kicker. And at first, when they sort of have that showdown towards the end, at first I thought he was going to kill her solely because of his own jealousy.
Well, he was going to try and kill her to
kind of
like that. That's like one of the reasons why he's not
a good guy.
Solely, like there's a little sympathy for him.
Yeah,
and I think it really, honestly, I think it only really manifests after he's been shot.
Mm-hmm.
Because he realizes at that point, all right, well, I'm not getting away with this.
Right. So I'm
even if she dies, I'm not getting away with this. So there's no point in framing this kid.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go and confess to everything and then try to escape to Mexico.
Right.
So he is not a good guy.
No.
I mean, you could see he felt, I guess, some sort of guilt for Lola. Mm-hmm. Or that group, and that was also a little weird,
right?
That he's hanging out with this kid so much because there's a
point
where
her dad.
He murdered her dad, and he's like just hanging out with her, and then like there's a part where
he's like, I felt good just hanging out with her.
When they're on the hill, he says hanging out with her was the only time I felt peace.
Yeah.
But he's also like, that week I saw her 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And that was before this moment, and it's just like, are you dating this girl now? It's just weird. And
that's what I thought was going to happen, that she was going to like form this relationship with Neff.
But she wasn't interested in him in that way at all. She was just like, I love Nikki or whatever the hell.
Nino, whatever.
I love Nino.
Yeah.
But he's seeing my mom now. Jesus Christ, Lola. Come on.
Yeah.
Get a backbone.
Yeah.
Stop being a doormat.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
she's dating.
He's
like threatening her, and
even
the mother is like, I was filling his head full of lies, so this way, and then I was gonna tell her where she was, and you know what he'd do to her.
Yeah,
that's the kind of guy that you want dating your daughter. The guy who's just gonna beat her to death because somebody said, she's
flirting.
She was flirting with somebody.
Yeah, well, but she's representative of what I think women were back then. Just meek, subservient.
Well, except for
Phyllis is not the norm.
Yeah.
Phyllis is definitely not the norm.
Phyllis was
She was a stone cold
She
killer.
was a stone cold killer.
She had no remorse. And I love that scene at the end where she basically tells Walter, she's like, I wasn't in love with you. Yeah, I used you, just like you said.
Yeah. Although at the end, she's like, but now I feel different.
Different, yes.
She should have just kept shooting him.
Yeah.
She like, what is this?
Yeah.
You were that you realize, oh, after I shot him, I realized I loved him.
Yeah.
That's I mean, there are weak points to this movie. She really should have just kept trying to kill him until he killed her. I think that would have been better.
Yeah.
Where she was just like, yeah, you're right, I was using you. And then he has to like throw like a candle at her head or something
But his pure love turned her cold, icy heart.
Yeah.
Because no one's ever killed for me before. Usually I used to take care of it on my own.
She just got sucked in by the pure seductive aura of Fred MacMurray.
Yes.
Oozing machismo.
I'm going to give this film a 9. I think it just is still just an amazing piece of cinema. And just before you give a number, this film was made in 1944.
Yeah.
1944, which makes it 50, 20, 73, and 79 years old. Next year, it will be the 80th anniversary of this film. Wow.
Yeah. It's I mean, there's a reason why it's like the prototype of film noir.
Yeah. And it is a classic. We watched this on TCM tonight. I don't think it's streaming for free anywhere, but it is available for rent on several platforms for a nominal amount of money. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get your number. 1 to 10. What would you give this?
I'd give it an 8.
An 8? Okay. I'm going to give it a 9. I definitely think that we both agree that this is definitely a must watch, whether you are into film noir, classic movies.
I mean, especially if you're into film noir and you want to sort of see where that style has its origins. This is it. This is where you get it. This is where your education starts.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of really good. There's a lot of, I mean, even like, and again, it's funny because this is in black and white, and I think black and white also lends a certain je ne sais quoi to the film, right? It makes it more timeless, I think, because it comes from a different era, and I think that all
gotta be honest,
works
a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff looks so much better in black and white. Like,
yeah,
it's just,
for sure.
There's just like this.
Like aesthetic that is just.
It's a strange thing, but it's like, okay, you could do film noir with color. In fact, people have done it very well, beautifully.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the black and white.
Yeah, that definitely adds a layer to the whole, like, I agree. And I was going to say that in this case, I think it adds to the story and it makes it more timeless. And I think I agree with you. You look at some movies that are made today and the choice to make them in black and white, I think is a bold choice and I think is a great choice. You see a movie like Roma or even Raging Bull, like that are within the last, couple of decades in the case of Raging Bull, because that's a movie from the 80s, but still something like that, you put it on and it's just crisp and beautiful and just it almost raises it to.
I mean, the shadows, the contrast, it just looks. It's like a painting.
I was gonna say it's almost like art. High art, right? At this point. Yeah. So, I mean, I love when, and it doesn't happen very often, I think. I think a lot of people, we're in the year 2023, so of course they're not going to use black and white, but
I mean, some people get like, oh, is this film in black and white for?
Yeah. Yes, my
shut
children,
up.
as soon as they see black and white, they're like, oh, I don't have any interest in seeing this old crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should just do black and white movies with them at some point. Do a whole month of just black and white movies just to force them to watch stuff. All right. So that's it from us. And again, if you are so inclined, and again, if you are a lover, I mean, you don't even have to love film noir. Just be a lover of good, amazing storytelling. This is definitely for you. Again, 1944's Double Indemnity with a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. I would say PG-13, although there's not a rating here on IMDb.
I
but
would say PG. There's nothing bad in this.
Yeah, I guess PG. Yeah, again, because we mentioned before that the murder happens off
when we were
screen.
kids, there were plenty of people die in PG movies.
Sure.
It's just how it's handled. There's
no
absolutely
blood,
no profanity. There's no blood. You never see anybody die. I don't even really think you get a good look at the guy's body after he's dead.
No, everything's done off screen. The only thing you see is him
when
hurling the crutches.
When Fred MacMurray actually gets shot, he just sort of like jerks his shoulder, and you don't even like. There's no hole or anything, or there's no blood squib or anything like that. It's just I'm a guy and I'm pretending that I'm shot.
Yeah.
And then later on, you see like a little stain on his shoulder.
Yeah, which gets progressively bigger, but that's beside the point.
But I mean,
still,
if that film was made today,
it would be
Fred MacMurray would be covered in blood by the end of his little.
Well, that
confessional.
when the thing went in, like the blood splatter and the gurgling of through the hole would have been something.
You'd see like
it
would be way gorier.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode of the podcast is going out to my lovely friend Angie on her birthday. It's actually a day early, but I just wanted to say happy birthday. Angie is someone that I've met through my new position at work and works with me to help me get acclimated to my job. She has been exceedingly kind, exceedingly giving of her time, and I look up to Angie as just an amazing woman and mentor, and I look forward to working with Angie many, many years, and I just wanted to give her a happy birthday shout out. She is not like Phyllis in this film, but in honor of Angie and International Women's Month, I wanted to grab a movie that I loved, that spoke to me, and also reminded me of Angie, since she is just a class act, much like Barbara Stanwyck. All right, that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night.